Men are hurt just as badly by these trends as women. Because
Absolutely.
placing weight on men.
Think about this too also. A lot of this tradwife movement also ties into a lot of the political movements.
Absolutely.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Because so I find that tradwife trend is not truthful. It's not being transparent.
Right. Hello everyone and welcome to Pink Boom XP for Exposed Exposure. And today we're talking about the tradwife trend. Is it helpful or hurtful?
And and the thing is that they're selling lies to young women, telling them, oh, find yourself somebody who's gonna take care of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what if you just you marry a guy who doesn't have the income to support that lifestyle? We're really selling women a lie with those types of these trad women. Oh my goodness, these trad wives, they're gonna be in for a shock. Look, you know what? I was married. Those of you know, my first husband died. I remember thinking, God, I have a career. I'm so thankful that I have something to fall on. If I would have stopped, look, because I married right before finishing school, and I knew I was going to finish school because that was my goal, right? I mean, I had my goal, and one of the things that I think about, if I would have thought he's going to take care of me, where would I be?
Yeah.
Where would I be?
That's a good point. Shauna, just jump in here, Shauna, because I was coming with something and just jump in.
Yeah, go right.
That's, Teresa, we were discussing this in my college classroom the other day, right? And of course, a lot of the young women, I see that they're leaning there, but they're kind of like, I don't know who's in the room, so let me not, so I like, oh, you guys know about this, and they're like, yeah, and what do you think? And you get that, and I'm like, I just want you to remember one thing, that even if that guy that you choose or chooses you is an angel that you grab directly from heaven and put him next to you, what happens if he dies? What happens if he gets into an accident? Where are you? And they were like, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. Think about this too because a lot of this tradwife movement also ties into a lot of the political movements.
Absolutely.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Because I like her, our story, right? If you think about all the movements, they've had some type of effect in terms of how gender will be dealt with in society and throughout the world. When you look at the civil rights movement and the rights for women to vote, it was a lot, right? And you had people who had to sacrifice their lives. Black people being able to vote. Now, if you think about this trad movement, I'm not saying it's negative, but I'm just saying that if this is your choice, look at the effects behind it. Staying at home, it can be beneficial to your children, but it also the next movement will be now women's rights to have credit is rescinded. Now your right to vote is rescinded. Yeah. Now your right to even speak and use technology is rescinded. It just means so much more, because look at what happened in Arizona. Women having the right to choose. Yeah. Look at the right to vote. Why do you think Stacey Abrams has this playbook that the world wants to know about? So the tradwife movement, everyone does have that choice, but when you look at the ripple effect and then the long-term goal of what that will do, women, listen, this is not about anti-feminism and bashing.
No, not that. And it's interesting. Maybe we should discuss it on a big group. There is this large movement in this nation that is saying that we should rescind the right of women to vote, because their husbands should vote for them. Because
I've heard that. It's power and control.
When a man and a wife has to vote, you're dividing the home. So if the man only votes, he's voting for the. Listen, people, we gotta wake up.
Listen,
We gotta wake
baby.
up. Let's go into damage control. What's that? Some powerful things here. Well, unfortunately, time. Damage control. What can we do to prepare up and change the dynamics of this? And Teresa, you said a lot of good stuff here. What is something that you would recommend?
Okay, one of the things is I think we have to clarify some things for people, because now if you say the word feminist, it has become a bad word. And this is what I tell my students, because I work at a faith-based educational institution, and this is, whenever that word comes up, I say, I am, but you know what? Because God was the first one. He saw the value in both men and women as the designer of both men and women, and we both have value. And feminism is the radical concept that women have value. I mean, how can you disagree with that, right? And I think we also have to point out that there's always in every single subculture that we have in society, there are always extremes. Understand that in Christianity, in politics, in everywhere, there's always extremes, and we have to come. And I think that that's our biggest battle, our because we are dealing with people, like if somebody goes to an extreme, then you feel like you have to go to the other extreme in order to cancel that out. But in the process, we are just hurting each other. We are, damaging the progress that we have acquired as a society. And so we have to really, I think, for damage control, I think we have to speak to what things really are. The concept of feminism and women's rights is it's the basic concept that women have value. That's what it is. And yes, and also acknowledge that there are groups that are extreme, in their way of demanding attention, and we get that. We as a society sometimes want to see, I don't know why I use the word progress, but we want to see change. And when we don't see it happening on our clock, we take things to the extreme. And I think that that's where we get into a lot of trouble as society. We have examples like some ultra feminist groups defacing art pieces. I know that there's the call to attention is what they're trying to get to help women further their the agenda for equal rights. However, I think that the majority of society sees that as that's what feminism is, right? When that's only like an extreme version of it. So I think that what we're seeing with all of these trends, with Andrew Tate being, followed by so many young men, this tradwife movement, all of these things are in a counterbalance to what we have seen. And it's unfortunate because it's pulling us in a direction that's going to really damage the growth and the progress that we've seen up to this point, because we don't try to come together and find a solution for the situation we're in. We just like, I see that all the way over there, well, I'm going to go all the way over here. And I think that that's one of the things that we're struggling with as a society, especially politically. I was listening to somebody comment right now, and I've gone, if you guys want to interrupt me, but I wanted to share this that I heard the other day. And I think it's valuable here. Just because somebody says something, that that person is from, let's say, a different political point of view, we don't even listen to what that person says. We already make our own, we pass judgment.
Right.
And he says, and that is the problem we have right now.
Exactly.
And my opinion is that this is why we're seeing these trends, because instead of saying, let's talk about how we can become a better society, how let me listen to you over here on the extreme and see what it is, that you want to what you want to say. We are just going in the pendulum back and forth into the extremes, and this is hurting us as society more than anything else. If we do not listen to each other, we're going to end up in a place that nobody's going to like.
Right.
If this trend continues with the tradwife, and we start having women drop out of college to be stay-at-home girlfriends, because that's a thing now, to be stay-at-home, and which I think is the most I think it's the most naive thing that women can do, to be a stay-at-home girlfriend, no matter how. Look, you have no legal protections.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to stay at home, at least get that paper, get that legal document that says that you are linked to this person legally.
That's
because
right.
Ultimately, you're the one that's going to be left out in the cold. That's as
right.
a woman.
That's right.
But anyway, lots of things to discuss.
Yeah. This is like part 2, 3. Shonda, what's your damage control?
Damage control. We definitely have the right to respect how a person thinks, but it does not mean that I should be forced to partake in your thought, right? That's how we know these damaging ideologies have existed throughout the world. So my damage control, I would like to say, is that those of us who know that this world is about doing things that's fair, just, true, and right, we have to keep on holding space for those type of conversations to continue to just flow like water, just keep flowing. It just needs to be able to flow throughout the world, throughout the universe. Those things that are fair, true, just, and right, and oppressing people and taking away the rights for people to live according to the laws of the world, right? That we're supposed to be created equal. There's not one greater than the other. And so we need to just continue to speak on these issues throughout whole conversations, act on them, have intense conversations, meaning in love, but moving. And, we can respect each other's thoughts, but we don't have to be forced into living those ideologies.
Right. For my damage control, I want to bring this. We all were cheering. I was actually away out of New York when South Carolina won Iowa, that basketball game, which was huge in the history of basketball. The amount of viewers that they got, it was really a huge plus for female athletes, right? Because
yes,
millions and millions of people watched this game, right?
Yeah.
Which was a fantastic game, by the way. South Carolina really turned the clock around. So in an interview with Dawn, I forgot, Shonda, you're from South Carolina. In an interview with Dawn Staley, the coach, which fantastic woman, right? She had some young men standing there next to her, and the reporter was like, "Who are these guys?" And she's like, "They're our highlighters." And she's like, "Highlighters?" She's like, "Yeah, they practice with the team every day. They're the only team that has beat them, because if you remember, South Carolina is at 38-0. They have won every single game.
Wow.
Right? So she said, they're the only team that have won the team. They practice with us. They make us better. They make us stronger." That's my damage control.
Yes.
We need to empower men not to feel that they're losing control when they, if a woman has a right to decide, you're losing control. If she works, you're losing control. You're losing control. No, we need to empower men to understand that this is not I am better than you and you are more controlling. This is a game that we're playing together.
Absolutely.
Our best skills, our best talents, the best of us together to make a strong family unit.
Yeah.
One person cannot, I'm sorry, I don't care who says what. One person alone cannot, with the complexities and the toxicity and the brokenness of this world, one human being alone cannot carry his family. That's a stress that nobody should want.
Absolutely.
You need the coming together of two human beings that are going to be committed to see this family through. And we need to stop feeling are letting men feel that you are the one solely responsible for this to happen. So my damage control is that. Let's come together.
I need to say something.
Go ahead.
What you said right now is so powerful, Norca, because we live in a society where the majority of us, right? I'm not talking about the privileged, wealthy. I'm talking the majority of working class, right? My husband and I sat down and we had a heart-to-heart talk on. I had to step away from working to take care of a family, crisis that we were going through. And it was at that point, it was very important that we do it, right? And Victor had the load of sustaining the family for, it was about a year and a half gap. And let me tell you, he was exhausted.
Yeah.
It was very difficult because he thought, I can't get sick. Nothing, because whatever happens, and that's one thing that I think we need to really talk about, because men are not allowed to say this out loud.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
What happens if he physically can't provide?
That's right.
The amount of pressure that's put on a person. So when I returned to work after we had gone through that process that we needed to go through as a family, and I returned to work, it was like, I don't feel the level of stress.
Wow.
That, and to me that was powerful, and one that we can see each other as human beings, and he needed to know that I was willing to be part of that support system, because we have a family to raise, right? And our kids were older. They didn't need me to be nurturing them as young children. We were at a stage where our finances needed for my input as well. And I think that as true partners, you speak about those things, you talk about those things, and you realize that if you made commitments to have a house payment, have a car payment, have whatever it is that you commit yourself to do as a couple, then the pressure for one person really puts men in a difficult position. Absolutely. Because the level of stress that, and this is one of the things that I realized just not too long ago, that that it is mainly men who are at the high risk jobs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And mainly men, construction, like road work, anything that has risk, it's mainly men. And it is so difficult for them to emotionally have to deal with the stress of those of that situation where they not every guy works at an office,
right?
Not every guy works in air conditioning, and they are struggling, and their health is being affected by those circumstances, but they're not allowed to talk about it, right? And now with this tradwife movement, what does that do to your spouse, right? I think that because I want to say this, you might as a couple decide that you're going to let's say if you have children at home and you want to stay at home, that one income is going to mean that you have a limited lifestyle. Right. Your lifestyle is not going to be going out to dinner, every week, every weekend, or going on vacation, because you're committed to those financial responsibilities that you have acquired to. One, you have to have a home, right? Unless you have wealthy parents and they gave it to you. Right. You have to have a home. You have to pay for home. You have to pay for that vehicle that takes you to work. Whatever it is, we have financial commitments, and unfortunately, what this tradwife style is that they're in a home, they're in a very nice home, right? They get to do all these wonderful crafts and things and all this other stuff that they're selling to women, right? They're selling this, to me, it's like a fantasy, because look, when that year and a half that I was at home, I didn't have money to splurge. No, because there was only one income, and we had to, we had these payments that we had to take care of. So I find that tradwife trend is not truthful. It's not being transparent.
Right. Right.
They should disclose the fact that that husband probably makes a level of income that is not typical of
Right.
every person that's out there, right? Okay.
So two things I think that I think we all agree on. Well, one thing I want to say before we go into that, we got to remember that as content creators, most likely these young women are making some kind of money from these platforms.
Oh yeah.
All right. So that again, that transparency piece, Teresa, right? They're making some money off of this philosophy that people are buying into, thinking their life is going to be all glorious if they follow it, right? There's not truthfulness in it. That's one. The second thing that I think for me, what I'm taking away from this conversation, and this is definitely the part 2 of the tradwife, we're going to split this in 2. Men are hurt just as badly by these trends as women. Because
absolutely.
placing weight on men that is not, and listen, we could maybe for 3 minutes go into the whole idea of, she talked about when wives, I guess the biblical idea of women surrendering, submissive to husbands. Let's stop right here because we need to read that full chapter and we need to read it in its context.
Can I say something before we even go there?
It's about men and women submitting to each other. We always take that one text and we don't read further where it says men and women, and it goes back to that idea that we talked about of there has to be a coming together, not one above the other. So I want to ask people to revisit that and stop using that as an excuse to say that women need to be submissive. That's not what that is saying. Teresa, go ahead.
Let's place some foundational scholarship
under the text.
Some scholarship foundations here, okay? To begin with, you are reading a Bible that first was not written in English. The original has and that is where we unfortunately need to get more education before we start talking about these things. You have to read the original. You have to know exactly the meaning of those words. It has nothing to do with submitting, like you becoming less than the other person. And I think that it is unfortunate that we don't understand that this is a over 2,000-year-old text that has been translated and translated and translated and translated, and we have missed the original message. And
what about context?
And see, but that's what that but the foundation is that we need to understand one thing. You cannot take that translation, and I'm talking, and apply it
to fit your needs,
because you are misrepresenting the original.
Absolutely.
That's to begin with.
Right.
Next step is definitely context. Now, if you take the context from this translation that we have, and that's the one we read.
It's just the one text that they use. They just use the one.
Yeah. No, they just
and they forget the rest.
But if you read ahead, or if you read before, it says that Jesus gave his life.
Thank you.
He died. And let me tell you something. Somebody's not going to die for you.
Mutual submissiveness. It's mutual.
That's why that's men and women are created equally.
Exactly.
The idea of this division is a falsehood. It has no religious creation. It has no value. It's a falsehood.
We have created it in religion to control.
Absolutely. Control and power. Absolutely.
We need to be realistic about this.
Control and power comes, the source of that is fear.
Fear and hatred.
Right.
Lack of love.
To men, and I'm not speaking in general, but what is happening with all these trends, a lot of these, especially these newer generations, because they have seen women advance, they are fearing their own futures. But the reality is this: as much as we are happy, I think it's good I believe it's good. I am the product of the advancement of women, and I want to continue seeing that. It is important that we remind, as you were saying, Norca, all these young men, all these newer generations, that we need them,
Right.
that we need to come alongside, that we, all of us, and I tell students, I said, there's no women without men, and there's no men without women. Period.
That's right.
It's not, it's scientific. We don't have to go to any faith, any religion, or anything. Just science. That's just science. And we need each other. We need to support each other, so we would continue living as a society. And so it's nobody is better than the other. Nobody has, like, women have a series of abilities that are not natural in men. I don't think they can't develop them, I think, but we tend to have certain characteristics that are very much female, they tend to be more considered to be female, and there's characteristics that are male that tend to be more characteristic of their, but that doesn't mean we can't learn from each other and become better. We've talked about, I think in the past pink groups, about how assertiveness in men is seen as a positive. I mean, I can learn to be assertive as a woman, and hopefully live in a society that will also see that as positive, that won't see it as, oh, that's just a masculine trait. No, assertiveness should be a trait that we can both manifest and be valued for it, right? Empathy should not be exclusively female. I mean, men should be empathetic, and they should not be judged because they are empathetic. They shouldn't be seen as less male. So I think that, and I shouldn't be seen as less female for being assertive. So that's the ideal, right? That we can actually value each other's qualities, learn from each other's qualities, and be able to move our society forward because of those qualities.
Teresa, you're saying something here that is very important, and I want to highlight that as we close. When we think about the idea of progress, you said this, we are afraid because we see that females have progress, right? I want to apply that to racial progress, gender progress. When we see immigrants come to this nation and they work hard and they do well, we're afraid of their progress. When we see a people stand up and defend themselves, we're afraid of that. It all comes down to this idea of there needs to be a top dog. And I'm going to lose my footing because I'm superior and you're coming up to catch me up. We need to really look at that, because that is not at all the ideal. That is not at all the way things work. If you want to talk about the right order of things, the right order of things is that we're all working on par. We're all seeing each other as equal. I am not more than you because I'm Christian. You're not less because you're Muslim, or because you're male or female, or because you're black or white. That humanity that we've always talked about here, that humanity centering, that is really what it is. And you're right, Teresa. The more we move away from that, then we try to create these things to try to write them, and then we fall way off the track.
The pendulum.
We just
the pendulum,
and forth, and nothing really. But we thank everyone for joining us. This is our part 3, part 3 perhaps. But we thank so much for joining us. It's such an important conversation. And we hope that you're having these conversations in your circle with your young people and those women and men in your circle. And if you don't want to have the conversation with them or don't know how to do it, share the video and then have the conversation with them. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you once again for giving us the space and the time. And we ask you to subscribe and definitely share the video with others. Have a good one.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.